this is Rúna and you're listening to the Changemakers podcast, where we share tips, insight, tools and stories from other changemakers designed to motivate you to become the change you want to see in your world. Make sure you join our Changemakers community at runamagnus.com/podcast. And now, this is your time to sit back, relax and enjoy.
This episode is sponsored by the No More Boxes movement. Do you sometimes feel like you're stuck in a box? Or do you feel like your company culture, like your team, is stuck in a box? You're just doing the same thing over and over again, and it's not giving you the result that you are looking for, that you're seeking for. Chances are you and your team are stuck in a box. It could be your biases, it could be your genders, it could be your statuses, it could be so many different things. In fact, according to our study, we found out that there are 8 drivers behind the boxes that you are in. And in one normal company, there are at least 10 boxes that the company needs on a regular basis to look into and check. Is everything in there that still needs to be in there? Yep, that's what No More Boxes movement is all about. If you want to know more about No More Boxes movement, hey, check out the website, www.nomoreboxesmovement.com. And now to our guest, Ruthie Schulder. She is a co-founder and chief executive officer of the Participation Agency. Ruthie Schulder reinvented the agency model, buckling the trend of conventional pay-to-play opportunities in music and arts, and she started the Participation Agency to develop radical experience campaigns with brands as partners, not clients. Woohoo! Focused on the idea of placemaking, Ruthie pioneered for those who tour a series of sophisticated rest stops for creatives in developing markets, serving musicians on tour for those who tour roots, culture, and arts through emerging markets across the US, invigorating cities with world-renowned talent and giving brands partners organic exposure. I love this interview with Ruthie. Not only did we have the opportunity to talk about marketing, money, gender, you name it, we went over the moon and back on so many of the things that are changing, what is going on, how do women fit into all of this, plus so much more. I hope you're gonna love Ruthie and this special episode with Ruthie Schulder. Here she goes. Ruthie Schulder, welcome to the Changemakers podcast. Super thrilled to have you as our guest.
I am so happy to be here.
You've done an amazing things in your life, and your accomplishments are something that is just blew me away when I was doing my research. Can you tell and share a little bit your background? Where did Ruthie come from? And I know it's a big question, but give us a little bit of your background. How do you come to that magical place that you're in today?
Sure. I'll even start with saying I'm the youngest child. I'm youngest of 3. So I was able to get away with a lot growing up. And I have a little bit of a renegade spirit, and I've always had somewhat of a risk taker type of spirit. And I was able to just, say to my parents, I'm going to do this thing while everyone else is doing that thing. And they got used to that. And so I think that really kind of fueled some of my more, entrepreneurial approaches to life, because I knew that I was always a person that pushed boundaries, and that it all ended up working out in the end. I was raised 45 minutes from New York City. And so New York, where I still live now, was always kind of my playground and my inspiration. And, I grew up really, really steeped in a lot of different culture, like theater, and going to lectures and sporting events and doing a whole host of different things. I feel so lucky to be able to had at my disposal really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And then I started, when I was in my early 20s, I started a business. And it just came off of a hole in the marketplace that I saw in the kind of kid fashion world. And I started this business with a friend, and I was so sure about this idea. And I worked on it for about 2 years. She, I think, is still working on it in some capacity all these years later, but it got a ton of press, but it made like very little money. And that combined with some like differences that we were having in our partnership, really inspired me to move on and to go to business school. And I got my MBA from NYU. And while I was there, I started another small business where I was like selling my gluten-free baked goods around New York City. And then, which was so interesting. And then, I guess I'm just a person who needs to be doing things and needs to be bringing ideas into the world. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And when the risks are low, that's okay. And then I graduated business school and I started a marketing agency with somebody who I had known, who I had worked on a couple of different projects with, my current business partner, Jessica. And we really wanted to hone in on a place of marketing that we thought was like the next phase, like how social media marketing had really blown up at the time. And so we're an experiential marketing agency. So we create marketing campaigns that are rooted in some form of live experience, but then amplified with a big digital world around it.
Wow. So really about allowing people to get to know the story behind the product or the person or whoever it is.
Bringing them into a space where the space can really act as like the runway for the product or the service, or creating brand awareness.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you see? Because this whole thing about marketing, first marketing overall, then marketing online, and the funnels and everything, and so many people, what I've noticed in the space that I am in, so many people that are in the personal development field or in those solo entrepreneurs, they are struggling with this bit. I see so many of them fall into the trap or fall into the box to think number one, they have to do it all by themselves. And they have to learn all of these things by themselves. And then they're not really clear on what is their brand or right. How do I actually do all of this? What is your experience? Is this changing, or where are we today?
Yeah, so I think with smaller companies, like we had a period of time, we work with giant brands and also some smaller, more established brands, but we had a period of time where we really wanted to work with like well-funded startups. Yeah. And we'd go and have meetings with these entrepreneurs who had managed to raise, $15 million or something like that. And they didn't understand marketing, and they didn't understand the value, and they didn't understand that it's something you had to put money into. They were so high on their own idea of, I have the best idea in the world, that they allocated no budget, no resources. And, it's especially in today's era where like businesses are being started all the time, it is not, if you build it, they will come. That's just, it isn't how it works. Yeah. And you have to put time and money and brain power and resources into marketing. And if you don't, it's a huge miss. I think on the flip side, there are some of the huge companies that we work with, and they're all amazing and I love them all. But, I think that some of them think kind of siloed. And so one department will be thinking about communications to X group, and one department will be thinking about it that way. And it's easier for me to say because I'm like far removed, and it's always easy to play that role of how can you do it better. But I think that if the marketing team got to sit with the sales team and understand, well, what is the business objective of launching this product? And so then the marketing team could also be really metrics focused and not just like awareness focused. Mm-hmm. Like that's how I like to think of things. And I see that missing in a lot of these like much larger corporations and conversations. And I think it's a mistake.
Yeah, it make me, when you're saying that, it reflecting on a lecture that I was listening to the other day. It was talking about as we're stepping into the new decade. He was talking about one of the things that we're going to see more of and this is all part of the fourth revolution, was more of the small is the new big. And when you're saying that, it sounds like in order for things to really, either the corporations have to really rethink I actually think they need to rethink their things. so that they really get the most of their budget
Yeah.
that they have.
Yeah.
Or it actually the new small is going to be the new big.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's interesting because you want people to stay in their lanes, but I also think that like if you have really, really great hybrid thinkers, like if you have a marketer who's also strategic,
Yeah.
you're gonna get so much further than if like the marketing team is just executing on what the other team said, or if the events team is just executing on the marketing, like it all snowballs into each other.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the end of the day, it's about finger pointing, isn't it? When it doesn't work.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before I pressed the record button, we were talking about the beauty of being a woman in the business world and women today and gender box of being a woman entrepreneur. Now you're a woman entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so am I. And one of the things that we with the No More Boxes movement, we've been looking at part of the women movement. Is it a little bit stuck in that movement? Do we still, in the 2020, do we still have to think that women entrepreneurs need special guidance to marketing? I mean, is that anything different that women entrepreneurs are going to do than man entrepreneurs or mixed groups entrepreneurs?
Is your question, do they need like
Is it
sort of
anything,
like melt?
yeah, is it anything different? Do we still need, or is it, I'm just basically, are we in the old phase of saying yes, empowerment to women, which by the way I'm nothing against, but I'm just thinking about, do we still need special thing for women when it comes to entrepreneurship or marketing or teaching or whatever?
Yeah.
What is your view on that?
Yeah. Well, I think, we were talking a little bit about mentorship before, and do women and men need the same mentorship or the same kind of mentorship? I think absolutely yes. I mentor a lot of men as well. I think that everybody needs to like be more aware, more self-aware. And for me, like the style of mentorship that I am able to add value with to people that I work with is kind of on that level of just kind of helping them see things that they can't see because they're so in it, and like what's the ecosystem of their team and how is that affecting their thinking, or if they're younger and this is their first job, like what are you being told that you kind of just have to let go out the other ear. And I do think that that's true for both genders. I still think we need to be more proactive with women, just because we're the first ones to kind of like throw our hands up and not take care of ourselves. Like that sounds really pedestrian, but I do kind of think it's true of like women are conditioned to make themselves small to make other people feel comfortable. And so the more that the more that we can all talk about that, and many, many other things we all need to talk about, I think it is important, because I think it gives people who don't have the language, like you and I are people who clearly do a lot of inner work and who are like doing a lot of deep dives into this kind of stuff. But like I would say 90% of the women, especially the young women coming up today, they don't have the language and they don't have the tools and they don't know where to look. And so I think it's really important to make sure that it doesn't mean you don't mentor the men, but it really means you don't ignore the women, or you proactively go after it, because I do think that there's still a lot of catching up to do in terms of confidence in the workplace, and in terms of having vision for what your career could even be. Like women are raised, like starting from whatever age, of how is your career going to affect your future family life. Men aren't raised that way. Like we're making a lot of decisions based on a lot of outside noise. And I don't think that men are experiencing that in the same way. And I do think it's important that we talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, nothing changes.
Exactly.
I would love to get to a place where we never have to talk about it at all. But like, I think we're 15 years away from that if we're lucky, because or else the pattern, if we don't all work together to like throw off all of these patterns, they're just going to keep perpetuating.
I agree with you. And look at what the opening that movements like Me Too movement has given us on so many levels. I don't even think it has given us everything that we're about to say, but really this openness, what you're just saying, just having that conversation, regardless of your gender, of what sort of a family do you want to create, and because a family is not just a mom with a child or a dad with a child. It is hopefully the parents with their children, and that conversation. One of the things that I've noticed, I'm Icelandic, and Iceland has been ranking number one for gender equality for I think 9 or 10 years in the world. And one of the things that I've noticed in this journey that we're all on, and we've reached a certain point over here, is how dads, just as much as moms, are wanting to contribute. And now that we've talked, the talk is really no biggie if it's the father stays at home during parent leave, or the mom stays at home, or actually the law says they both have the rights and should be equally divided between the two of them. They can't just one of them take the whole parental leave. But then it becomes the norm. And so what you're saying is maybe being really proactive in creating that new norm.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, like I said, I think it's still going to take time. But yeah, and I think that the more people bought into the future vision of it, the faster we'll get there, which is why I think it is important to be having the conversations like across the board.
Yeah.
And to, be really vocal to shine light on the people who are like paving the way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now you are paving the way yourself. You are making a difference in the world by creating, opening up the experiential marketing for businesses. What is your big vision, if I may ask? What is your big vision you want to see you, yourself, and your company in 10 years' time, 5 years' time?
Yeah, well, over the years, as our company has become a lot more stable and has grown, we've been very, very lucky to been able to evolve into a much more values-driven company. And the values that we're really focused on are inclusion and diversity and sustainability. And those also all work together to create really good marketing programs. But the one that I'll talk about specifically is sustainability, because our approach to that is twofold. One is that your marketing campaign should work, and that also just creates a sustainable marketing campaign. So just throwing dollars at things that feel cool or fun or sexy, but go away after a week, that's not our approach, because I don't think that's sustainable from a marketing perspective, but also it's not sustainable from a resource perspective. So we're constantly pushing our clients and ourselves to say, how can we be waste free? Like, we just made our office plastic free. We have a huge project that's been running for 3 years for one of the biggest companies in the world, and it's a 20,000 square foot space, and we just made it all plastic free, and we started a composting program. Like, small steps, but we're very, very, very much like, we don't operate any other way at this point. And so the sustainability of, just from the dollars perspective, of also showing these giant companies of you can make change in small ways with some of these dollars, and you can be mindful of this every single step of the way, is a really, really big thing for us. And my vision for the company is to become increasingly values driven. Even now we're really lucky of, we pretty much only work on projects that we care about. And that's really important to us, because that's when the projects go really well, because we're very, very, very passionate team, from my co-founder and I all the way down, all across the board. We're a very passionate team. And so we just bring 400% of ourselves when it is something that we care about. And so we're really just focused on growing our business in those kinds of projects. And we're able to do that because we're a privately owned company, and, revenue is incredibly important to us, and we're very ambitious, and we've grown our company leaps and bounds from a revenue standpoint every single year, except the year I had my twins, which is something I always think about. But revenue is incredibly, incredibly important to us. But we think that you can make a ton of money while also really sticking to your values.
Yeah. Which I think is talking about the new normal. I think that's the new normal.
For sure.
It should be, yeah, it should be, and something that I truly, honestly believe that people overall, businesses and are thinking about, and
Yeah.
where in their ecosystem, what are they, consciously choosing as part
Totally.
of their system. So
Yeah.
correct. So for someone who is in that phase of thinking, okay, I really do need to take a look at this and see what I can do in my own marketing, where should they go to get more information about your agency and how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the website for our agency, so the agency is named the Participation Agency. So the website is thisisthepa.com. And my email is Ruthie, Ruthie, at thisisthepa.com. And LinkedIn is another great place to find me.
Beautiful. Ruthie, thank you so much for being a
Thank
guest
you.
and for bringing in experiential marketing into the world.
Thank you.
Was this podcast of value for you? I sure hope so. If so, feel free to share the love and give us your generous review on iTunes or Stitcher. And remember that you can always go to runamagnúsdóttir.com to find out more about the Changemakers and how we can help you drive the change you want to see in your world.